Welcome to a very special edition of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. And Larry Hedrick and I are right here by Bayou Butte that we mentioned in the Dragoon Pistols episode. And there was so much more to talk about up here. We had to get up here. We did a hike. I actually did an opening before this, before we actually went up there. But we found that it's so special, the things that we found up there and how hard it was to get there, that we had to do something different here to tell you that we are going up into this crevice right there. We are going to find an actual prospect, an old prospect. Tell us about it.
Well, if our viewers had watched episode 2 of the Lost Dragoon Pistols, it gave the background of how I became involved in the Queen Valley area and Bayou Butte with Hart Mullins. In 1958, Hart and his brother took my dad and I up to a mine that was explained in episode 2 and showed us a pit that was dug there. And you know, the Mullins family were true pioneers of Arizona. His father, Fred Mullins, was a stagecoach driver, and Hart himself was born in 1890. I mean, Mesa was only a dozen years old. The Silver King mine had just barely been found. All this was total wilderness up here. And he was 15 when Apache Trail was finished, and he was 21 when Roosevelt Dam was finished in 1911. And he homesteaded the Queen Valley area. And it was about that time in 1915, he was 25 when he found this mine. And that makes it from today that he found this mine 103 years ago. So this is a really old dig, and it wasn't dug by him. Anyway, we came up and looked it all over, and I found that wheelbarrow that we'd talked about and that was handmade and that type of thing. So as we decided to go look at it ourselves, we spent, it doesn't look like it's that far.
No, it doesn't look that much.
But it was 4.5 hours to get
grueling, I wouldn't even call it hiking.
Some of the slopes were
mountain climbing.
60% slopes of loose diluvial
Well, look
material.
At your arm there.
Yeah,
your arm, and mine's healing now. So.
And the last 100 yards took an hour in itself to get there. And Dave was the first one to get to the top.
That's the producer, Dave, here.
It took him 15 or 20 minutes just to go the last 10 yards because the brush had totally
If you remember,
overgrown.
at least I was so tired, I said, Dave, just get some pictures and come on down. I'm not going up there because I was so sick.
I know.
I was sick. You weren't feeling well. And Dave says, you got to come up here. You have to take a look at this. Okay. So we had to blaze another trail to get up there because there was no trail.
And right to the end. There used to be 400 or 500 yards of trail that was handmade by somebody right up against the cliffs where they leveled off the alluvial fan there and made that trail. But there was only 50 yards of it left. And that's what we had to negotiate right at the end. And why it was so tough with the cat claw and everything just tearing us to pieces.
It was awful.
And the one thing I was certain of is that nobody had been there since I had been there. There's just no way.
And so that is 1950s, 58.
Nobody had been there.
Now what about that ladder that's up there? We need to, somebody's going to say, wait a minute, that ladder is a little more modern.
Well, Hart died 2 years later in 1960, and his brother, Jesse, lived on after that, and they were working this.
Okay.
They were not looking for an ore body. They were not digging in an ore body. You know, part of the legend of the Lost Dutchman was that the Peraltas came up here in a large party and were working several areas. And they were caching some of the ore that they couldn't take back with them. I mean, once they got a load, they just cached the rest of it. And that's what Hart was looking for. He was looking for a cache that they had left behind. And this mine is old enough. When he was born, it was only 43 years after the infamous Peralta massacre. You know.
Yeah.
And so this is a really old, and the timbers that's up across the top of the dig are native to this area. When I was there in '58, there were no trees in front of the cave, And now there are 6-inch diameter trunks of these trees that have grown up. You can't see the cave from here for love nor money. And those were so rotten, those same kind of trees were so rotten, they were there long before Hart found this.
Well, now, you've talked to some people who are experts on the Superstition Mountains.
Oh.
And you've talked to some of them, we won't mention names,
Yeah.
but you've talked to some of them, they had no idea about this.
Nobody
Nothing.
knows that mine is there,
But
us three now.
we have talked about it, and I went down in that prospect, that mine, and it doesn't look like anyone would have thought there was gold down there. But you were talking about caches of gold, and this could have been a perfect place to hide caches
The best
of gold.
hiding place in the world. You're taking your life in your own hands
Yeah.
to go there, and I recommend that nobody tries it.
Welcome to a very, very special edition of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains, where we're going up and find what could possibly be one of the Spanish prospects of the Peraltas. And it took a long time getting up there, but we're going to show you everything that we did up there, and it was amazing. And here we go. Larry, we made it. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this is incredible. This is amazing. There's a ladder there, and this is incredible. So, Hart Mullins believed that this was one of the original
Peralta
mines. At least a Spanish mine, and you know, we're on the east side here.
Yeah.
And one of the big theories is everyone's looking in the wrong place. Some people believe that the Lost Dutchman mine is on the east side. So I'm telling you right now, this is not the Lost Dutchman.
You mean
mine.
on the west side?
Well, on the west side.
Yeah.
They believe it's on the west side, and then people believe it's on the east side here. But this is not the Lost Dutchman mine.
And of
by
course,
any
on the
stretch of
way
imagination.
up here, we saw all the symbols are on the maps. We saw the 3 red hills. We saw everything that applies to the Lost Dutchman, and I can see why Hart believes this is a Peralta dig.
We got pictures of the panorama there from the Ruth map, the 3 red hills. It is an amazing thing that lends a little bit of credence to it being on the east side and not the west. And it's been 60 years for you.
60 years.
Been here. I'm impressed. But we made it, and it was well worth the trip. It took us, what, 3.5 hours?
4.5 hours.
4.5 hours to get here.
And I'll tell you what, I don't recommend anybody come up here and spend 4.5 hours to get to this spot. You can watch what we're doing, and you'll know as much as we do.
Yeah, so there you go. This is not something that you should come and try to look for. But it's Hart Mullins' mine, and he believed... Well, you tell the story. Tell us a little bit about it.
If you recall in our previous episodes, I had told you that my dad retired out here in Mesa, and I was working for Pete Allen at Queen Valley. And Pete must have introduced my dad to Hart because I'd never met him. And they all pulled in the yard one day, and so since I was there, I went along. And we went to Elephant Butte and Buzzard's Roost to some claims they had, and then Hart brought us up here. And it wasn't near as brushy as it is now.
Obviously, nobody's been up here
Nobody's
for quite
been
some
up
time.
here
We
for
had to
many
actually
years.
make a trail, yeah.
But Hart told us the entire legend right here in this spot about the Lost Dutchman. First time I had ever heard it, 1958. First time my dad had ever heard it. And then he brought us here, and he claimed that he believed this was one of the Peralta mines. And he was working it. He left, that's a redwood ladder. It hasn't aged much at all, but this cutout wasn't here at the time. And he died in 1960, so he's been a couple of years further work on this.
You think that's his ladder?
I think that's his ladder,
Okay.
now that I see how difficult it was to get in here, and nobody's been here for ages.
Yeah, so it possibly would be his ladder, and it's guarded from any from rain and anything like that. But you know, this goes down, what would you say, about 30 feet?
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah, and they've got some of the original wood here that it looks like was used. At least I'm guessing that was some of the original.
This is the trees that's in the local area here, like this tree here.
Wow. So what we may be at, now we're not saying it's positive, but what is believed to be one of the Spanish mines, one of the Peralta mines, up here on the east end.
Yes.
On the east end. And some people have the theories that this is where it was all happening. So there's all sorts of different theories.
Well, of course, that handmade, patinaed wheelbarrow was as much proof that it was Mexican as anything. That was a handmade thing, except for the wheel, which was cast.
And that was around here?
That was just over the cliff here.
But it's obviously not there anymore.
No, my dad took it home, and
Okay. Oh, okay.
yeah, after
All
he
right.
died, it was stolen.
Okay.
But they
right.
didn't take it out of here. Once they were through, they just dumped it over the cliff, and I found it down at the bottom of the cliff.
Well, if you didn't tell us that this was here, we'd have never found it.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think, like you said, I don't think anybody's been up here forever.
I confused myself as we come up here because we didn't come the way we did. It was much rougher than back then. I mean, it's incredible how rough it was. And this is also bear country. The couple of times that I've been here, 58 and 68, there was a senator from Iowa and a friend that I'd met through the work that I did. I used to fly all over the North American continent making repairs on photographic equipment and stuff, and I met them, and I told them the Lost Dutchman legend at their house. And they actually come all the way down here just to come to this point. So 1968 was the last time I was here.
Well, whether it's the Lost Dutchman mine or a Spanish mine, it's still historic.
Oh, absolutely.
And it looks like there's a drift going.
Yeah,
I'm
not going down there to
No,
find out.
no. You'd have to be pretty brave to try that ladder now. But
I don't have any legs left. I don't know about you.
not after the trip up here. But we wanted to come up here and show all of you this, and we'd like to thank Larry for bringing us up here. Anything else you want to say about this mine?
I'm not coming back. That's all I got to say.
Larry, we had to wait a week until we recuperated to get back out here to do a close.
I'm still unsteady on my feet.
But here we are, Bayou Butte. I have to tell you, this is the hardest hike we've been to so far, and hopefully we're not going to have another hike like this, at least not this year, until we mend. But there was no trail. There was growth everywhere that we had to either cut down or knock down. We didn't have a machete, which that was our fault. But it was a grueling, grueling 4 hours to get to this mine. And please do not attempt it. Now, we're giving you a lot of information as to where it is. All you have to do is just drive down and see where it is, and you can match it up here by Bayou Butte. But I'm encouraging people not to do it. Not to do it. This is not just your everyday hike through First Water or Needle Canyon or anything like this. This is really bad. And do not go alone, and make sure you have lots and lots of water and something to eat, because it's going to take you some time if you do, and I know some of you will, but I'm telling you, please, on my advice, don't try it. This is one of the things that we like to show to you as what's out here. It's all part of the mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.